Good stuff. The Rocket Leon. This is the Carlotti Pro model from Rocket Longboards, and I've got one. So I'm going to do a review. Yeah, basically, I was on the hunt for a single kick longboard that was going to have no micro drop in the front and was going to be a little bit on the narrower side, a little bit on the shorter wheelbase side, but not like a tiny board. And that's like not something that there's very many of, and I was actually looking for a while, and then Rocket released this board and I was like, you know what, that probably sounds pretty perfect for what I'm looking for. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know me, haven't seen many of my videos, I've been riding a Rain Darkside for several years. It's been my favorite board for such a long time. It's great. I love that board. I still love that board. It's really, really good. What I found was that, you know, as you skate more, get more experience, try different things, your preferences and your style can kind of change along the way. And I tried riding a board with my front foot on top of my front trucks instead of behind them, and that felt so much better for, I mean, everything, but specifically stand-up toe sides. And so that's why I was looking for a board that didn't have a micro drop in the front, because with the micro drops on the Rain Darkside, you don't have to, but it's designed to have your front foot behind that micro drop pushing up against it, which puts your foot quite a bit behind the front truck. So that's why I was looking for something like this. I was riding my Acedia from Rolling Tree a lot, and that was really nice, but it didn't have a kick. And I don't like need a kick, but it's just something nice to have. So it's really interesting that this board is pretty similar in its design and specs and everything to a Rolling Tree Acedia, but it has that kicktail, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I bought the board, I skated it a couple of times, and then headed down to the Woodbugger Freeride in Virginia. Spent a week down in North Carolina, skating in Asheville, skated in Tennessee, skated the Reddish Knob Outlaw on the way back up through Virginia, and yeah, so I feel like I've had a pretty good go on the board, have a pretty good, you know, understanding of it, and I've got a lot of things to say about it, and I'm going to sit down and do a review now. So yeah, let's get into it. So it's 38 inches long, and it's 9.4 inches wide, with wheelbase options of 22.5 to 23.6. So it's not tiny, but it's not long. It's like getting more towards that middle ground, smaller kind of board. 38 inches long is still pretty long for a board, which is, it's got a little bit of a nose and it has quite a long kicktail. But the 9.4 inches wide is getting a little narrower for this size board, and then obviously the wheelbase is getting more towards that smaller range. The reason that I went for this is like I've really been enjoying that slightly smaller board for all of my skating, and it's going to allow me to ride these trucks at 145 with big square wheels, or 155 with my freeride wheels, which is on the narrower end. Well, it's more in the middle, so then the width is more in the middle as well. Yeah, it's perfect for that. The concave is elliptical concave from Rocket. It's the same concave that's on the Rocket Rhino, which a lot of people have been riding, and the Rocket Rooster, which is the David Boubier Pro model, which is like a bigger version of this kind of. Yeah, it's like, we'll try to do the concave shot. These don't always work that well, but you know, we'll give it a go. I would say it's like medium leaning into that mellower kind of concave. But the board also has flares, so it's got flares at the front, which help keep you locked in at the front, flares at the back, and at the back there is a micro drop and there's W. And what's really cool about this is you can stand on top of your front truck because there's no micro drop. So you can see I've got my foot stopped right up on my front bolt, so I can have my foot fully over the front truck. And then at the back, you don't really need your back foot over the truck quite as much, and you get this really cool pocket in between the wheel flare, the micro drop, and the W concave, and then the regular concave. It creates this really nice pocket for your back foot while tucking or doing toe sides, like slides and stuff. Really nice, like really feels locked in, which is really cool. Obviously, being a single kick, it has a kicktail. So yeah, pretty big, long kicktail too. Carlotti, whose pro model this is, does a lot of tricks. Like I think his signature trick is the tray flip and stuff. So he does kick flips, ollies, like all sorts of crazy stuff. So he's got a really nice, good, long, big kick that's super useful for that kind of stuff, which I just like having a kick so I can like kick my board up at the bottom of the hill. But yeah, it's a good like practical kick tail to have on your board. And there's an extra layer of fiberglass in, or carbon fiber, whichever one it is, in the tail to make it a little bit more strong and resistant to like durability and stuff. Yeah, pretty cool. Which, speaking of, the construction is like really top tier, as with all Rocket boards. So you got a combination of Canadian maple, carbon fiber, and they call it glass fiber, which is fiberglass. And then the top sheet is like something else, but it's like the same kind of round. It's like composite. So this is a wood and composite combination. Super stiff, super light, really good construction. It's also got these wheel flares, so you don't have to worry about wheel bite. I skated this board, small free ride wheels. I skated with fresh Kevin Reimer wheels, the green ones. And I also rode at the British Knob. I did a couple of runs on some seismic alphas that were fresh, as well as I rode quite a few runs on magnums. So you can ride all sorts of wheels, no risers. It's got good clearance because of those wheel flares, which is awesome. And last but not least, it's got a chameleon on the board, which is pretty sick. So the graphic is a chameleon dude, which I think is cool. And in the bio, I guess you call it, for the board, they sort of said like the idea for the chameleon was that like they can change their colors and do all sorts of stuff, and it's like this board is like a chameleon. You can use it for all different disciplines of skating, which is it's kind of cool. I just like it because it's a chameleon, and chameleons are cool. Yeah, let's talk about my experience with this board. I'll start off by saying like this was exactly what I was looking for. I set it up the first day I had it, and the first time I skated it, and it was just like, I was perfect. I knew it was exactly what I wanted. It has all the benefits of the dark side that I like riding, sort of like twisted, I guess you could say, into the sort of preferences that I have now. So I've managed to get my front foot up on top of the truck. I've mellowed out the concave a little bit. I've brought in the width a little bit, just sort of dialed everything in even more. It's just the perfect board for me right now, which is really, really cool to have, like going into the season of skating on a board that's perfect for me. The best example of this was I literally skated it once, and then I just like went on this big trip down to North Carolina and just skated this board, and it was still basically fresh. And it was like, I felt better than I ever have skating. I skated some really heavy roads, skated some really fun roads, and I felt comfortable the whole time on the board. Like, it is the perfect board for me. So some of this might be a little biased. I'll try and break it down sort of objectively as well about like the pros and cons of the board, but yeah, it's exactly what I wanted. I'm very stoked about it. So I think what's cool about this board is that it is getting into that slightly narrower width, 9.4, so not like race spec narrow, but narrow enough to ride 160 width trucks. Which is nice if you're looking for something a little more snappy, a bit more responsive, something where you're able to sort of fit in with the guys riding those splits and those narrow trucks and stuff, but also freeride. So I can do stand-up slides, and I can also like race on this board, which is something really cool. Like that's kind of what I'm trying to do this year, is just stick on one setup, and it's perfect for that. If you are like interested in doing both, but you don't want to have two different boards and you want something in the middle, this is in the middle, and there's not a lot of boards like that, which is really nice. I kind of already mentioned it when I was going through the specs, but the concave is actually pretty nice. It's not too steep, but it's not too flat, and with the extra features at the back, having that sort of really nice pocket between the W and the drop and the flares, makes you feel really locked in. Obviously I'm running this massive scythe footstop on the front, so having no micro drop or anything at the front and the flares being small at the front doesn't really matter for me, because I have this huge footstop, and I have this nice dark matter grip tape on, so my feet don't move, but they move enough when I need them to, and yeah, it just feels really good. Also mentioned this already, but having no micro drop at the front allows you to have your front foot over the truck, so if that's something you're looking for, that's going to be big. And this was the only single kick I could find that didn't have a micro drop at the front that was also like under 10 inches wide. Basically everything out there these days is either similar size with micro drops, or it's significantly bigger without micro drops. So that's kind of a, you know, unique feature of this board, I guess. There's not really anything else like that around at the moment that I was able to find easily. It's also got these flush mount cuts, so I think for the front it's just got a little bit of rocker because the flush mount isn't too noticeable, but then at the back you've got a bit of a bigger, slightly bigger flush mount into the micro drop, and that's obviously so that your trucks stay at the same level with having the drop at the back but not the front. If your trucks were just mounted without any flush mounts, there'd be different heights and the board would be kind of leaning funny. So that's cool. And then, like I said, the flares have the wheel clearance, so you can ride any sized wheel you want, basically. Like, I wasn't getting any problems with wheel bite on Magnums, which are one of the biggest wheels you're going to ride, really. Yeah, so really good in that regard. I don't really do any kind of tricks. Like, I already said this again, I'm kind of repeating myself, but the kick is for Antoine, and he's French, Antoine Carlotti, to do his tray flips and kick flips and stuff. But I will say, as someone who is not good at street skating or tricks, I am very comfortable doing ollies on this board, which is saying something because I can't even really ollie my double kick. But for some reason I feel comfortable on the bigger board, I think because I'm just used to longboards, and the kick is so good that I can do ollies on this setup, which is really cool for me, like to try and practice those, and maybe one day I'll do them up a curb or something, but we'll see. But no, the kick is like really practical. It doesn't feel weird and goofy. Like sometimes longboard kicks are just like clearly just there for you to kick your board up, because that's what most longboarders do with it. So it's nice to be on a board which like has been designed for the kick to be usable and practical and really give you a good pop. Okay, so I guess more my sort of recommendations of who might actually like this board. Firstly, I would say I kind of consider this a board that's like a quiver killer. Like you don't need more than just this board. It's right in the middle ground there. So if you are someone who's looking to just have one board, it's right in that middle ground, which is going to be perfect for that. Like I said, you can run sort of that between 140 to 160 range width of truck, and it's going to work for everything. If you're going towards that 140 end, you can ride your Magnums and your Alphas and your other big square up race wheels. And if you're getting out towards that 160 end, you can be riding anything like these ABIC 11 free rides, or like, you know, just any free ride wheel is going to work on that width. And because it's slightly narrower board, it's going to feel snappy and like very responsive on those square lips at that narrow width, but it's also going to have like enough width to feel slidey and like, yeah, comfortable enough to be sliding on and doing your stand-up slides and free riding and stuff. So it's right there in the middle, where if that's what you're looking for, this could really do the thing for you. Yeah, if you're going to compare it directly like a race board or a freeride board, it's obviously leaning into that freeride realm, with having a kick and having not that short of a wheelbase and not that narrow. It's probably not going to be your choice for a race board. It's going to lean more into that freeride realm. So if you're specifically looking for a race board, maybe not for you. If you're specifically looking for a freeride board, definitely up the alley of that. The other thing that like I have heard some people talking about recently is that for like shorter people, smaller people, people with like a smaller size shoe, there's not a lot of options out there. You know, it's something that maybe people don't think about too often, but like if your foot doesn't even go from one side of the board to the other, it's going to make it a bit tricky to ride. So this is getting towards that smaller realm as well. For people who might like to ride a single kick, but all the single kicks that are out there are like 9.8, 10 inches wide, and they have like a size 6 or 7 shoe. That's just way too wide to be riding. So if you're looking for a single kick, and it doesn't need to be like small or snappy or anything, but you're just a smaller person or you have a smaller shoe size, this is going to be a really good option for that. Just because there's not a lot of single kicks out there in those smaller sizes. So yeah, that's something cool as well. And obviously if you're like me and you want a single kick that doesn't have drops, then this was the only one I could find in the sort of oriented really for like proper downhill skating. So that's kind of interesting. It really surprised me. There's not a lot out there. Maybe we'll see more soon, but it just seems like the best option for my style of skating, which is, yeah, cool. Perfect for me. I give it a 10 out of 10. If this is somehow the exact type of board you're looking for, I can't recommend it enough. Yeah, smaller single kick. It's perfect for going fast. It's perfect for going slow. You can do everything. If you do tricks, you can do tricks on it. Yeah, it's very nice. I like it a lot. Yeah, shout out to Rocket, making some good gear. But yeah.